share that with you today. We're going to go to our next speaker, who is Sam Baron. And Sam is an esteemed designer around the world and has been living between Paris or France and Portugal the last few years. And so we're super excited to hear what he's been up to. I know that he's been collaborating with artisans through Passa Futuro, which you're going to hear again and again in today's webinar because they're so connected to all of these creatives. And so I wanted to welcome Sam and say thank you for joining us and sharing your recent project. It's beautiful.
Thank you. So I'm a French designer, and I arrived in Portugal 21 years ago, thanks to design, because it was about a design biennale at that time. And then personal reason made me stay here. During 10 years, I was kind of back and forth in between Portugal and Italy a lot, because I was also working at Fabrica, the Benetton Research Center, as head of design at the beginning and then creative director. But still, from all this year in Portugal, my fascination and gratefulness was about all these hand capacities that we still have in Portugal. It could be from small artisans to bigger company, and it could be the old national porcelain manufacturer, or it could be silverware company, internationally recognized, but everybody is still very, very, very connected to the hand capacities. And how also, even though you were saying, Lee, that the Portuguese are a bit shy, they have a huge proudness of what they are able to do. And that's something which has to be, in a way, discovered. And I agree with you that it's a process. You need to come, you need to see, you need to understand the people, you need to let them open the door. And from there, you're going to create a new community, not to say a family. So one of the true beauty of Portugal, because it doesn't lie, it's not over-marketed except for mass tourism nowadays. But in terms of making, it's really still about people that are doing things, are making things, are thinking things, and they let them discover slowly, slowly. And then from that point, you are able to do something that is maybe the exchange in between two different culture or generations. I'm gonna share two different stories, based all of them in between the main cities of Portugal, which are Lisbon and Porto. There is this area I circle, which is close to Batalha, which is a historical city where there is a beautiful monastery that everybody should visit once in his life, with a huge kitchen full of tiles. So this is the area. The first project I'm going to speak about was an initiative from an invitation from Passa Futuro, as you were saying, Philippe, is this association that has been founded by Astrid and Fatima. And basically, they are both architects, and the idea of their association was about craft, but not only as a capacity of producing, but also as economical and social involvement in the society. And they are pretty different project. Even the video we saw with the girl from Flor's studio, it was a project that was initiated also in this little city of Murtola by Passa Futuro. And the idea of this project I'm going to speak about is a European project. So there is over 2 European countries which are involved. And it was about the basket making in Portugal, and how designers can be, in a way, agent to reveal a different capacity about basket making. So as a designer, when you do this kind of project, it's basically, as a bit, as Noé was saying, something which is very different from our brand-related projects. I think one of the main difference is time, because basically you need to rethink completely the notion of time to make sure that you are going to be able to have enough mental space to absorb what you're going to see and redigest it and retransmit it in a different way. Plus, you need to adapt to the time of the artisan, because sometimes, as you know, designers, we think that things can be fast, but then you need to understand how the making process is also very important to be respected, and you cannot push things too much. So it all started with a trip, because you need to go where things are done. In that case, as I was saying, center of Portugal, and basically it's daily design residency. So every day we are discovering something, and we are starting to work together to know each other and to understand each other. First thing to understand, from my point of view, is what are they working with, and how are they using the material. So in our case, at the beginning, I was even a bit scared about the invitation, because I was one of the designer, but my raw material was rush, and rush is not one of these natural fiber that you can shape. It's a 2D weaving process. So for a designer, it's a bit difficult, because we all dream to do like crazy object with different kind of basket making shapes. And in my case, it was just like they are weaving the rush, and it's a flat surface, so you need to find a way to shape it in a way. Anyway, the way they use rush is basically that region is quite humid, so the rush is growing really well. And as all this basket making project, basically they are rooted where the plant is good to grow. So for example, south of Portugal, you have palm weaving for the basket making. North of Portugal, it's basically every time, every region is a different plant, and the technique is developed from the plant capacity itself. What they do with the rush when they get the bundle at the beginning is basically to kind of put it together and discard the different parts that will not be used for the weaving. So you get this kind of small bundles that then, as you're going to see, are going to be waved. In my case, the artisan is quite young and has a sense of innovation. His company is called Toino Abel, which is the name of his grandfather, that was blind, because he was in his family playing under the weaving instrument. And what they were using at that time to put all the lines together was a metal tool. And as a kid, he was playing under, and he got the metal tool. So all this tradition is still going on, but Nuno, which is the artisan, is really keen into kind of trying to push ahead and give a successful future to the technique. So he's weaving with a quite elaborated loom. The fiber is the natural line, and this is the kind of raw material that they obtain from the weaving. Their production is about making these beautiful little baskets that are baskets that they were used by the farmers when they go to the countryside during a working days. So that's really the origin of this kind of weaved rush technique. And basically that was what I would start with, which is something quite different from my production, because this is more related to fashion. And trying to understand how a design residency also can resonate in a daily or yearly life of an artisan. I was concerned about the fact that the basket, the weave rush basket, they are accessories for summer. So basically they have lots of work before the summer, but then after the summer, it's it's really calm. So economically speaking and socially speaking, it is a bit of a difficulty because maybe the money is not a year-long flow, and then the workflow is neither year-long. So some people are very busy, and maybe they employ some extra people at the beginning of the year, but then at the end of the year, all these people are eventually left home. So that creates a bit of an unbalanced situation. And I was thinking, okay, as I'm not in the fashion industry, how maybe we, from the more product design or interior design industry, we can help also to correct this unbalanced situation. And of course, my idea was to think about how I can create other typology of product that could be sold on the other part of the year, to make sure that we succeed to sustain in a more long year process efficient business for these artisans. So of course, first reaction is about sketching and understanding what we could do with the plant. And oops, sorry. One of my love for this kind of design residency with craft people is all about the relation we are creating together. Because at the beginning, everybody is a bit shy. Us as a designer, because we kind of want to discover the best of the technique. We want to pay homage to the territory, the craftsmanship, and the history. And then the craftsmen are also a bit shy at the beginning because they have a stranger coming in. Even was worst in my case because I'm not Portuguese and I'm not related to the fashion industry, as I was saying. So it was a big gap. But slowly, thanks to drawings, thanks for sketching and showing, a bit of ability to get close to the process, it's a way to connect the peoples. So slowly, we can start to exchange also through mock-up. We do shapes, we do some tests. We take some time also to see how people are working and understand how we could interact in the traditional technique of the artisans. So here you can see, first thing, for example, reusing some samples that they could do for the basket industry, and then me trying to play with the raw material just to express in a physical way what we could do as a volume and how it can become something as a product eventually. And then we start to go deeper in the conversation. One of the things that was important to me is, for this design residency, is the fact that the material comes from earth. But in the normal basket industry, they discard half of it because the part which has flowers is not good to be weaved, and the part which is close to the root is too rigid. So basically they use only the middle of the plant. And I was thinking, wow, we are losing almost half of it just because it doesn't fit to the traditional way of weaving. But at the same time, it's something that comes from the earth, and we are, as stupid human, not able to kind of explore the full capacity of the plant. So I was trying to understand what could be done out of it. So we started to make some tests about weaving with the flowers, not to cut anything, and also not to bleach the fiber, because also for some basket making collection, some customers, they want to have the same exact look of the natural fiber, which is impossible except if you start to bleach it and use basically chemical product. So my intention was really to go back to the roots of the industry, the craft, paying homage to the nature, because without the nature, we won't be speaking today. And I think it's something that could be important through the product and the item we are producing as a message. So if the final product can also, in a way, homage the nature and show a bit of more attention to the nature. And as you will see here, also, one of the things that I was interesting to try to kind of push as a normal boundary of using normally the loom, because normally when you use the loom, you are kind of following always a very organized way of having one-to-one weaving. And then eventually to create some patterns, you create 1, 2, 1, 2, and then you can go ahead like this and you can create the pattern as we saw on the last video. But as I was thinking that it could be interesting to pay homage to the bundle, which is the way that the plant come when we start the full process of weaving rush, I asked to Nuno if it was eventually a possibility to have gradient way of weaving on the loom. So if you see here at the bottom on the left image, the rush is weaved very straight, and slowly the points are, the lines are getting higher and higher in a way to also let the part of the rush with the flowers to have this free form. And that was the first thing. So you spend lots of time making experience, sorry, eventually having some troubles because the loom has to be reordered and rearranged, and it's a lot of time to kind of work on this kind of complex tools. And you need to spend lots of time also to try to explain your idea the best way, because you already eventually visualize it, but then the artisan has to understand how it's going to make it happen. So again and again, we do different tests. And finally, we try to obtain a material, which is a kind of new textile made out of rush. And you think of how to shape it to become an object. So what we decided to do was to be decorative pieces, either wall sconces, either tabletop lamps, or either kind of tapestry item. And what was also a kind of innovation in a way was to look around the atelier. And as you can see, there is lots of colored string that they use normally to sew the basket, and they were on this shelf. And I was thinking, why we don't insert a little bit of color string in the weaving? So at the end, if we want to get close to the first image of the bundle that you saw at the beginning of the presentation, we could have these two beautiful black and brown lines that normally tie together the rushes. And that was also something that they never did, even if they work with the loom. But the loom is so dedicated to weave natural fibers that even just a little line going in and out in between the natural fiber was something that was different. And here you can see the final product. And you can see the black pattern, black and brown pattern I was speaking about. Also, the idea of using it as a light object in a way is to pay homage, sorry, to the space that the plant need to be weaved and how it dry and how the light can pass through. This is the table lamp. We work with one of the next speaker to have the wooden bases, and he was also sponsor of the residency. The tapestry, which is in a way like a field of rush, but interacting with a human being and techniques. And then that's us after, sorry, different days and weeks of working together and trying to understand how we can pass the technique from the fashion industry to the more interior design industry, and how we can create also
products that fit more in homes. So they are more, in a way, winter-oriented and less summer-oriented. So in a way, it balances the workflow of the artisan. So in the same region, there is also a tradition, which is terracotta. And I thought it was interesting to speak about that project today, because terracotta has different qualities that I recently discovered, basically, which is the fact that you do, as the basket weaving, you do it where it grows. So terracotta, normally you produce it where, if you dig the earth, there is a good earth that can be cooked, where the terracotta name comes. So in the center of Portugal, same region, it's like 3 kilometers from Nuno workshop. There is lots of different terracotta companies, because that part of Portugal was always dedicated to that, thanks to the geological capacities of the region. I was invited by this small company to eventually do some project with them. And first thing you do is to visit their facilities to understand what you can use and how you can reinterpret the techniques. So you can see that they can color on the left image, and they use different kind of glazing, but they are also good to shape, as you can see on the right image. You can see that they have a very traditional production, because terracotta was always used, first of all, just for the people to be able to cook and eat. So you see traditional pieces there. And you can see also the capacity of the material itself, which is quite unique, which is the fact that if you have some leftover during the production of terracotta, you can always re-put it into the raw material baskets from the beginning of the production chain. It's a material that have a never-ending, eco-responsible recycling capacity, which I think nowadays make also lots of sense. And if you go on the back of the factory where they are producing all the items, all the objects, basically the first thing you see is piece of land where they dig. So there is no transportation of the raw material. And depending of the spots where they dig, you can see the different kind of color of the terracotta. And also you can see that it's possible to re-put to all the leftovers of terracotta in the raw material. And again, there is this kind of capacity of recycling forever. Of course, when you arrive in this kind of a small company, there is always a history and a heritage, and there is always a woman behind it, because there is always a grandma somewhere that has been feeding all these families. And this lady, as you can see, very kind of raw Portuguese face, because at the beginning, they are always a bit kind of hard to break. Then they become your best friends forever. So this lady basically was doing this very humble production of flower pots that she was selling on the little village where they come from, on the roadside. And she was called Maria, which is a very common name in Portugal. And I found this picture on the wall of the factory, and I thought that without her, we were not here anymore. So I would find a way in the production to pay homage also to aesthetic. So basically what I did was about trying to understand in the shape that she was producing at the beginning, because there is something interesting in all these regions, is like, if there is one artisan, then there is hundreds on their side, because it's always a community And in a village, you're going to knock different doors, and everybody is doing something with that raw material which exists there. And everybody, in a way, is copying the other one. So everybody is also trying to distinguish himself from the neighbor to protect his market, in a way, by doing little details things. So as I understood, she was doing this kind of fringes on top, or she was doing this kind of wave on the side, or she was using this kind of fake hooks on the side of the pot she was doing. And I thought that was something that was interesting and dear to me to reinterpret it and show to the third generation of these terracotta makers that there is always something from the roots, from the beginning, from the grandma, that can be reused. So first of all, you sketch, and again, it's a way to engage a conversation with the artisans. Then you see what they are producing on their side, and then you understand what you can link in between their daily life and the product that you're going to do for them, that are going to be special because they are from a designer, so they're going to be a little bit have a different flavor in terms of shapes and in terms of functionalities eventually. And then you get into the part of the prototyping, which is always also very exciting. In that case, the grandson of Maria kept the very basic know-how. So he's producing very traditional shapes, while the sister has the little company where I was supposed to work with. I spent a few days with him trying to understand also how they work in a garage, which is on the back of his home, trying to understand also the kind of tools he is using. And as you can see, the rulers, they are quite elemental. And as a designer, you arrive and you think, oh yeah, let's do some vases, and they're gonna measure maybe 27 centimeter high. But then you understand that the measurement is maybe something that is a mental construction. But the irony is that every time we were trying to speak about dimension and proportion, that beautiful man was always doing by hand without checking any measurement. And at the end of the wheel moment, the object, they were all exactly the perfect dimension that both of us agreed to work on. It's just that each of us, we have different kind of background, and we were having the same vision, but using one his hand and his eye capacity, and me was more about trying to bring memory of the family into a kind of contemporary shape design. And then there is also something which is really dear when you do this kind of process with craftsmen, which is to understand the movement and the gesture. And in one of the wheeling moments, I understood that he could use his finger as a way to create this wave decoration. So the dimension of the waves on top of the vases are basically the dimension of his fingers, which are quite fit because he has been working all his life in humidity. So it transform your body also in a way. As you can see, measures are perfect on the right side of the image. And then you develop also bigger pieces, which are kind of challenging, but at the same time, it's also a way to show the capacity, but also to bring up the proudness of the artisan. And then you kind of keep the process, you glaze it, you take beautiful pictures, and eventually it becomes a nice product for a little company in Portugal that can export worldwide, which has been the case. So the idea also is that through the interaction of the designer, we kind of bring the light of some processes. And thanks to the product we are doing, eventually we succeed to open up some markets, and it become a way to sustain the craftsman culture in a specific area. And as Rosa was saying, sometimes, or Noé, sometimes we are all willing to kind of help that people, but if the economical side and social side of it is not there, they're going to close. And that's a true question that as designer, we have in terms of responsibility, as much as how much we can interact with them without forcing, as much as we can make them grow in terms of maybe adapting to a more contemporary market, and at the same time, how we can preserve the scale of the craftsman and his production capacities, and how this can become also a higher value business for the craftsman, because eventually with the new product we are doing together, they can gain a little bit more money. And that's a way also maybe to kind of share to the community, trying to propose to young craftsmen also to learn and make money out of the business, because there is also this sad kind of habits of having craftsmen that are making little money. So young generation are not appealed to go on that kind of industry, because they think like they're going to live miserable, or their grandfathers. But maybe trying to work all by hand, all together, we succeed to create a more positive economical. And if the simple fact of designing and getting close to that people could help on that, we are more than happy. Thank you very much.
So great that you are thinking and creating at the same time, and that the market and the economy and the concern for the people is really interesting. Love it. Love the presentation, the photos, amazing.
The glazes are amazing.
Glazes. Yeah.
And the food is amazing.
Yeah.
Because that's also part of all the craftsmen that you discover. You need to stay there to work closely to them. So you need to discover also the food they're having, the wine they're having, the time they are spending to go to buy the bread and share with you in the middle of the morning, because it's time to make a little break. So yeah, it's always a very fulfilling experience, and we are almost crying at the end. So it's
we can feel that in the project in a way. I think that love is translated into form. And that is what is so beautiful, I think, of crafted items, that they carry so much energy. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting.
Thank you. So we're going to go to